Guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over on our YouTube account, and I wanted to check out the wish list. I had a lot of players asking about the wish list, kind of how we should build heroes, what heroes we should be looking at building. So I did set up my wish list, and it was a lot tougher than I thought it was going to be to actually build this out, because when we look at heroes and when we look at utility, different stages in the game essentially will have different utility. So I want to break this down and break down really the reason behind the wish list and the choices that I put on here. Now, looking at our light bearers, we do have two of the absolute biggest buffers that we have within AFK Arena, which of course is Jerome and it is Palmer. Now, those two heroes, the first two heroes you actually see right here, are very, very strong. They are used through a multitude of AFK Arena. Even thinking earlier game when you do have them built systematically or fundamentally, they will do incredibly well. They have the ability to buff up whoever you need. So if you're running Damon, if you're running Rem, regardless of kind of who you're running, you'll still have the ability to buff them up. And of course, once you start getting into, mid game, when you start getting into later game, they are still going to make a really big impact when you start getting multiple formations working incredibly well. Then we do have Scarlet. Now, when you think of burst damage, long before you have all of these awakened heroes, Scarlet is going to be number one when it comes to Riz, when it comes to Soren, when it comes to a lot of different places in AFK Arena. Scarlet is going to be very prevalent, and even looking now in the Nightmare Corridor and a few other places, Scarlet is very, very prevalent in formations. And then I put in Rosaline in here. Rose, overall, again, any hero that she follows, especially earlier, where again, if you're running Damon or if you're running Rem, Rose can actually follow them to give them a buff, but depending on what you're running, she can come in as a perfect buffer, as an ultimate ability really enhancer that can follow whoever you need to. Makes a big difference, and she does have a little bit of a mitigation, kind of her sweeping effect, a few other things that make her very viable, and she does crowd control, she does some stuns, she's very strong. Now the last one, I did put Adrian and Elise in here, so I was kind of going back, and you could let me know in the comments what you guys think. So I was kind of going back because Guineas not really being used, Sonya not really being used, and then even looking Naro possibly for the towers, but a majority of these other heroes, and I'm almost thinking that possibly having a tank just because of the towers themselves might make a really big difference for Lightbearer Tower. But overall, even looking utility-wise, Adrian and Elise is the only other Lightbearer hero that is being used really in any content as you get a little bit further in AFK Arena. So essentially, you could build them up a little bit earlier and find no use for them, or essentially just kind of phase them out. Now, of course, this is very, very highly subject to power creep as we continue to get new heroes, especially the Mauler heroes, which we know is coming pretty soon. This could definitely change. Now, looking at our Maulers, Nakaruru or Naruko, our tiny tank right here is really the only one that is being used consistently in a lot of different formations. Absolutely big priority to build because of Nadia. Ultimately, even earlier game, very, very strong as a tank, has healing, has damage, has a lot of aspects that they bring to the team, making it very viable. Now we have Crescio in here. Crescio, of course, as a damage dealer, still used in the Nightmare Corridor in a few formations, and overall tower formations going to work very well. Then we put Anasta in here, again with the Brawler's Protection, looking at kind of what she provides in formations, works very well. Again, without a huge investment. Now I did put Salakai in here. I know we're not using Salakai very many places, but I'm thinking in the tower formations, I'm actually using him quite a bit. And again, kind of looking down here, we dropped Kren in the last spot. Vika isn't being used anywhere outside of the tower, so not really a lot of viability there. But when you start looking at possibly Granite with the plus 30 signature item, but that could be quite a ways down, essentially the pipeline. Rest of them, one copy of Brutus will be really all that you need for that damage or the immunity that we do have in there. So you could pick up an early copy of Brutus. But overall, when you look at the ability to have like Kren in a flex formation or putting him in a different formation, because essentially you don't have a lot of heroes as you're starting to build out the wish list and as you're starting to get a lot of these heroes. Now, when we get to the Wilders, this one again was pretty easy because looking at Aethys, Aethys is probably one of the strongest tanks that we've seen in AFK Arena for a considerable amount of time. It does work very, very well. Then we put in Trishia. Trishia, again, damage-wise, very strong, puts out an incredible amount of damage. Again, still being used in a couple different places. Tamaris still being used for the crowd control and, of course, for the very, very high enthusiasm buff that he actually does. In a formation, again, you could put him in a few different places. Works very well. Then I put in Iran in here, or Oren in here. Again, when you come to burst damage, when you think of being able to shell out an incredible amount of damage, and again, utility and formations as you're making progression does a lot of crowd control, does a lot of damage. And then we also do have Nevi in here. Now, I know we could put Mishka in here, but essentially Mishka was kind of replaced with Aethys to a point of the crowd control. We know Raku used to be used a ton, and then also looking at Saurus could be used a ton. Early game, having one copy of Leica for the haste might be beneficial, but it seems like at this point, you know, it's kind of been overrun by a lot. Then we get into our Graveborn heroes. So in here, Ivan is the #1 priority, probably followed by Lady Simona. Those are the two that we're really looking at. Ivan, of course, has the ability to buff up your strongest hero. So when you make a hero, again, thinking of running Daemon, thinking of running Rem, that is a really, really strong hero to build. Then, of course, we do have Daemon in here. I still recommend building him out, especially if you're early mid-game. Daemon will help. If not, even if you haven't built up a little bit, you can link him to, again, like a Rem to really carry you and continue to carry you through a lot of AFK Arena. Now, Silas for the buff for the immunity, again, it works incredibly well. Lady Simona still has the energy reduction. And again, she requires a little bit more of a build. Now, for this last slot, I did put Pharrell. And the reason being, when you start looking through here, again, thinking kind of big picture, the original version of Baden is used really niche in one spot. You could drop Oden in here. But if you can get one copy of Pharrell, the crowd control that he provides, again, early game, mid game, works incredibly well to keep the rest of your team alive. He's very, very strong, but I would probably get a copy of him, maybe a copy or two, and then swap Oden in here. But looking even like Hodgkin as a buffer has been kind of phased out. Most of these heroes honestly have been phased out in their entirety, but the crowd control that he provides works incredibly well. Again, as I got a little bit further, I would probably drop him out and I would drop Oden in here. That way you got kind of the build out for light bearers. Now, of course, when it comes to carry heroes, so if you're just starting AFK Arena, Ivan Daemon combination works incredibly well, and this will be your carry for a majority of places until you get to the point of the garrison, till you can actually garrison Rem. So Rem is going to be your main carry. So looking over here, right here is Rem. Essentially, Ivan and Daemon very early, and really early, regardless of kind of who you pull, you have to use the heroes that you pull. But overall, when you get to the point of the ability to get a hero, you're going to go ahead and pull out Rem. Rem with the combination of Ivan is very strong because it takes care of kind of the utility that the hero has. She dies pretty quick, but if you have Ivan in there as a support, you can push through a ton of content very, very fast. And of course, Rem is going to have to be linked to someone. So depending how lucky you've kind of gotten with your pulls, you can go ahead and build that hero out. Now, when it comes to the Noble Tavern, and when we start looking at the Stargazer, so this unlocks at chapter 16, as well as now, so does I believe the dragon portion of it, the Dragon Isle unlocks at 16. So in here, there are a few heroes that you're going to be really, really prioritizing. Number one, when you get to this point, is building out Libirda. Libirda is going to be the first primary one. And then, of course, number one, once you have Libirda built out, and with these heroes, you're building them out to 1 star. So you are actually going to be spending an incredible amount of time building them all the way to 1 star. And then I would actually follow Libirda by building out Lavatoon. So I think Lavatoon is right down here. Once Lavatoon is complete, you can go ahead and build out Demia or vice versa, depending on what you want to. And then for the 4th one, I would actually do Lucilla, which is right here. And that is the first 4. And as of right now, guys, for the amount of time that it's going to take you to build out all 4 of those heroes, it's going to be a very, very considerable build out to really have those. And it's going to take a considerable amount of time. Now, when should you start stargazing? So when you actually unlock the Stargazer, you should get to the point of being able to come into your King's Tower and farm all 4 of these. So these are the faction towers. I know these towers do come a little bit later, but when you're in the towers and you're starting to get Stargazer cards, that is the point you want to start using your cards to Stargaze. Essentially, earlier game, if you're not a whale, if you're not spending money in AFK Arena, your diamonds are going to go into regular summons. So they're going to be the regular desired summon, or excuse me, the regular summons out of here with Dolly. And I love the skin she has. But this is where you're going to spend all of your diamonds trying to pull heroes from the wish list until you get to the point of getting those Stargazer cards out of the towers is the point when you get into the Stargazer. Now, Temple of Time, when it comes to the heroes in here, my priority would be number 1, getting the awakened version of Athalia. That would be the first one. Again, the higher that you build these heroes out, the better they're going to perform. After that first version, or when you build out the awakened version of Athalia, I would go in and probably build out the awakened version of Shmira just for the utility wise. And after that, I would kind of wait and see, because I'm sure by the time you build out 2 fully awakened built heroes, you're going to have, and we're going to have a lot more releases within AFK Arena, making it very viable to essentially go ahead and build out a lot of heroes. Now, of course, with the Dragon Isle, like I said, when this essentially opens, it's going to be very easy for the summons, because your wish list is going to contain all of your Draconic heroes, which are just 3 at this moment. And then, of course, looking at the Dragon Temple, this is kind of yet to be seen. If you're getting some insignias now, I would probably save them to see, because Hildwyn, ultimately utility, seemed like it would be the best bet. We don't know big picture. We're starting to see him in some PvP aspects, also seeing him in some of the Cursed Realm Nightmare Corridor, but we're also seeing Gwen in the same aspect. And of course, you want to push the Dragonforge Trials as soon as you get it open, as far as you can get that, to really make some progression. But all right, guys, so that is going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, and as always, thank you guys for watching.